Hello and welcome to my podcast, Used to Be's Do Count, with me, Dean James. It's a brand new year, guys. Happy New Year. This is the first episode of 2025. I hope you all had an incredible festive period. You got lots of relaxation and family time, and now you are ready and recharged to tackle the year ahead. In this episode, I speak with Jill Kaufman about being a stay-at-home mum for many years and losing part of her identity.
I was just very unhappy. I didn't have that joy anymore. I look back to pictures during that time, and very few of them are me smiling.
Jill also speaks about a very difficult divorce that she went through whilst transitioning back into the career world and how that's led her to do the job she's doing today.
My marriage was not good at that time. And in 2012, we got divorced, and it was the worst experience of my life.
Without further ado, let's dive right in. Jill Kaufman, hello, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I am very excited to speak to you today, and I'm very excited for you to tell the world your story, which is a very interesting one. But first, for those of you who don't know you, your name is Jill Kaufman. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now, Jill.
Sure. I'm a therapist, a divorce coach, and a trained mediator and a parent educator. And I do have a counseling practice, and I do have a divorce coaching business also.
Nice. A busy bee.
Yes.
Lots of expertise and lots of skills there that you're offering to help everyone. And I'm interested in really how that became. So we are going to focus a lot on your used to be, as you know. So just tell us what your used to be was.
Sure. So I used to be a stay-at-home mom. I had little children, and I was really focused on bringing them up, being at home, and not my career.
You used to be a stay-at-home mum. I think for lots of people out there, lots of women, lots of mums, there is a real struggle to balance being a mum and having a career. And you decided at that time when you had children to finish your career and be a stay-at-home mum. And we're going to talk about that at that time, what your experiences of that were and what that did for your identity, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I'd really like to understand before that came about. So before you had your children and you became a stay-at-home mum, what were you doing at that time?
So I went to a good college, Cornell University, and upstate New York.
Yes, this is really like world famous.
Yes.
I mean, when you
Yeah.
when you said Cornell, I knew exactly what it was.
Well, it's funny, and this is a funny story. So one of the reasons I went to Cornell was because my dad told me, you're just going to get married and have kids, so you don't need to spend a lot on your education. And we were in New York State, and there was a part of Cornell that was state supported. It was very inexpensive to go there if you lived in state. So that was like my only option to go to a good school. And so, when my father told me that, I was, very angry because I'm like, I'm not just going to go get married and have children. I want to have a career, So I had this like desire to go to as good a school as I possibly could. And I was lucky enough to get into Cornell. And I was kind of like, I'll show you, Dad, like I'm going to be a career person.
Love that attitude. So already there is kind of a gender role being fed down from the generation above. Like, this is what you're going to do because you're a woman, right? You're going to get married and have children.
Yep.
That was the level of expectation that your father had for you.
Absolutely. I mean, he was older. He was an older father. My parents were older. He was in World War II. I mean, he was born in 1921. So
Wow.
There was a little bit of a generation difference. So
Yes.
I don't know that most people at my age had that kind of influence, but I definitely had that from my father and my mom too.
Wow. Yeah, that must have been hugely sort of influential in the way that you thought. So would you say that your take on that was to be rebellious?
Absolutely. I was like, women could do everything that men could. And, he was from a different generation. I was like significantly younger than my older siblings. So, they were old parents and they didn't understand me. So like, I was very focused on, having a career, and I'm not going to do what he's saying.
That's great. That's great. So you went to Cornell and you went with some serious ambition.
Yes.
To actually really achieve high and to show your dad and the world that women can do just as good as men. What did you study there?
So I was a statistics major. And statistics was everybody's like worst subject. So I was like, I can do that. And it was, male dominated. I'm a female and I'm a statistics major. I didn't know what I wanted to do specifically, but I ended up getting a job in banking. And I worked in banking for about 7 years right out of college.
So what year are we talking? What year did you graduate from college?
1987.
Okay. The reason why I ask is because the world has changed since 1987. And when you walk into any banking environment now, there are more women, which is fantastic. We've come a
Yes.
long way.
Yeah.
But in 1987, banking was very male dominated, wasn't it?
Absolutely, especially the higher ups. And, it was just starting to be more women in the field, but I really liked the fact that I was in, a financial field and this was something that I was focused on.
Have you got a maths brain? Have you naturally got an analytical brain?
Yes, actually, I'm dyslexic. And so I always struggled with like writing. And so I went towards the math and sciences. And that's why I was a statistics major. That's why I went into banking because that was my strength. And I was very good at those areas and not good at some other ones.
And I guess back then there was much less support for dyslexic people than there is now. Was it even a label back then? I don't know.
No, it wasn't, except for my mom was like way ahead of her time and she kind of figured it out. And so I did get some help when I was young, but not like what there is now.
Yeah. Yeah. So you graduated college and you got a job banking. And how was that? How did that look? Were you thriving in that environment?
I mean, it was a great job, first job. They did it. I went through a training program and I, was out in the field. So it was a good job, but it wasn't the thing that I really wanted to do. I think I went into it because I knew that I wasn't good at these other things. So this is what I was really good at, not because this is what I wanted to do. So, I did it and I learned a lot, but I knew it wouldn't be what I would be doing forever.
Yeah. Did you see it as a kind of bridge, a stepping stone to something else, something better?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And what is it that you wanted to do?
Well, I didn't know at the time, but I had my father's voice in the back of my head saying, you're just going to get married and have kids. And so what did I do? I got married and had kids.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, it is an expectation. I guess there's maybe some inner conflict of, I want to be rebellious and show the world and be a career woman, but actually maybe you had some maternal instincts and of course you wanted a family yourself. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wanted a family, but I did feel pressure. I mean, there was part of me because I had older parents. I didn't want to be an older parent. So I felt like I wanted to have children not too old. So I was probably pushing myself to get married and have kids before I probably should have, I guess. So I got married when I was 25.
Okay.
And,
So not too young, but yeah.
I mean, when I look back now, I was too young. Did not know what I was doing. Maybe other people aren't.
In this day and age, it is quite young, really, because people are getting married quite a lot older. Back in the day, people were getting married at 17, 18, 19. So 25, I guess, is why was it too young for you?
Well, I didn't work through all my issues, like I had a lot of stuff going on. And I think when you make that big decision on who to marry, you really need to be sure of what you want in your life, So
Absolutely. You must know what you're looking for and what you're trying to choose. And also, more importantly, probably what you're not looking for and what you're trying to leave behind.
Exactly.
I guess at 25, you're not 100% sure on that. How did your husband come into your life? How did that happen?
Oh, well, we went to college together and then kind of like met out of college and we 10 months after we started dating, I was 10 months, which is a very short amount of time, we got engaged and then got married. So, it was all about like, in my head, I want to be a young parent. And I guess in my head, I wasn't thinking about being a stay-at-home mom, but I did end up, when I was 28, having my first son and quitting my job. And so I was a stay-at-home mom and raising my baby.
Yeah. So 28, you had your first child. Were you still in the same job in the banking industry?
Yeah, I mean, I worked with 3 different banks, so I was in my third bank.
Yeah.
But yes, I was still in finance and I didn't love it. So I was like, I'll stay at home, I'll raise my child, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely natural, normal. This is not what I want to do forever. I'm not 100% happy. I felt like this was a stepping stone. Actually, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mum. So you quit your job. How did that feel when you quit your job?
Well, at the time, it felt good because I had a new baby. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was like, I just got to be home with this baby. And his dad was working. And so we were both in agreement. And I didn't really think about like how long that would be or how much that would affect me.
All in all, how long were you a stay-at-home mum? And did you have any other children after that?
Yes. I had two other children. So
Okay.
a year later, I started teaching parenting classes very part-time. So I did a very like once a week, a couple hours a week job, but I basically was a stay-at-home mom for many years, not really making that much money, but doing something where at least I was enjoying it. I was teaching people how to be parents and discipline and how to communicate with children and all that kind of stuff. So I was good because I was learning it, and it was helping me be a better parent, and I was teaching other people, but it wasn't really a full-time job or anything. It was like a few hours a week.
But you have something about you clearly already that is, okay, I'm going through this experience, I'm learning, and I really want to share that with other people.
Yes. Yeah. No, it was great. It was something that I enjoyed as opposed to the banking, which I didn't enjoy.
And I guess being a stay-at-home mum is all-consuming. I mean, I am talking from zero experience here, so forgive me for my ignorance, but I'm not a mum and I'm not a parent even, and I'm certainly not a stay-at-home mum. So you're going to have to sort of lead me through this. But how did it feel being a stay-at-home mum? Does it become isolating? Did you have lots of people around you? What did it look like for you?
So it was really tough. It was really tough from working and being in college and living in New York City with all my friends, and then, getting married and still seeing lots of people. And then all of a sudden you have this human who's dependent on you 100%. And it was really me. And there was no internet. There was no like Zoom calls. There was just you and the child. And I did have some friends, and I made some friends that had children too eventually. But the beginning was very isolating. And my son's dad didn't really understand how it felt to be going from being involved and working and mentally challenged to taking care of a child all day, and how that was really difficult for me. So there was a little bit of problem in the marriage too, because he did not understand that well.
Which probably becomes even more isolating when your husband, the man of the house, comes back from work and you probably need some emotional support. You're going through your experience in the home, which is actually very difficult. He's coming in from work, from his experience, and then I guess there might have been some miscommunication and lack of understanding.
Yeah, we didn't know how to communicate. We were young, and, both of us come from families who did not have good role models for the relationships. And so, there was trouble, and it wasn't just understanding. I needed help. Do you know what I mean? I needed someone to do things. And all of a sudden I was in this traditional family that my dad was talking about that I never wanted,
Absolutely. I was just thinking that. How did that feel, knowing in one sense your father in your ear and you being so rebellious and I'm going to show you, and this is not the way the world is anymore, to this is actually my world?
Yeah, that was hard. That was really hard. And I didn't know how to get out, and there were so many things I could have done differently, but I didn't know how to do it. So I had another child, and then I had a third child. And, I love my kids more than anything, but it was tough. I had some tough times, feeling isolated, feeling alone, not being happy.
Did you continue to be a stay-at-home mum after your third? Did you have 3 young children that you were staying at home and caring for full time?
Pretty much. I continued to teach the parenting classes, but that was, again, very part-time. But mostly I was home. I mean, 3 young kids need somebody home a lot of the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. From what I'm hearing, feeling of isolation and this very, very traditional family happened from your first child. And then before you know it, that doubled and tripled. And of course, they're your children. You love them dearly and you would do anything for them. That is without question. but your world must have got much smaller.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly had a very good support system of women who had children who were amazing. And I don't know what I would have done
Great.
without that.
Great.
So thank God I had that. And I was focused on those friendships and, family and kids. And you don't even think about yourself. You know what I mean? You just kind of give up what you want for everybody else. And I did what I could do.
I guess there's a bit of a change of identity there, right? So Jill pre-parenting, the way you saw the world, the way you saw yourself in the world, your ambition, your rebellious nature, to Jill as a mum, a stay-at-home mum as well. Did your identity change?
I was just very unhappy. I didn't have that joy anymore. I look back to pictures during that time, and very few of them are me smiling, and there were things I enjoyed, don't get me wrong, but I gave up too much of myself.
And it's not like it's just work. I'm guessing it's hobbies. It's all of the things that you enjoy doing in life that make you're no longer doing. You're just living for your children.
Right.
2.4 children, traditional life, traditional values, and husband still not feeling fully supported by husband and understanding what you needed. Did that continue?
Yeah, I mean, we went to counseling. Things got a little bit better, but yeah, no, there wasn't a lot of understanding of what I was going through. And to be fair, I didn't know how to set the appropriate boundaries in my marital relationship. I allowed things to happen that shouldn't have happened. And I, at one point, had enough, and I realized after doing my own therapy that I didn't have to live that way. I didn't have to be unhappy. I had some agency here, and I just had to figure out what I wanted.
That's amazing. I mean, boundaries and putting your own boundaries in place is such a difficult thing for so many people. Different relationships require different boundaries, and we're always kind of learning that. And you mentioned, which is amazing, really, to take accountability for that. At the time, you just simply didn't understand how to put in any boundaries around that relationship that helped and supported you and what you needed.
Exactly. I was angry, resentful of the situation, and it's not a good basis for a marriage, right? so,
No,
so
absolutely.
but then I realized what I wanted to do.
And how did you realize, before we get to what you did want to do, because this is a success story, which I love, but how did you realize?
So I had always wanted to go to graduate school, and I had given all that up. I was taking care of my kids, like after going to therapy and seeing friends do things like have a career and do pretty interesting things. I was like, why shouldn't I be able to do something like that if that's something I really want to do?
So your belief in yourself started to change. You started to feel a little bit more optimistic about some of the things that you could achieve.
I mean, I had a tremendous amount of guilt about being the one to be there for my kids, not leaving them, being brought up by a nanny, or just leaving them and not being the person to be there for them. I just really felt that that was my responsibility, my role. My mom did it. It was just ingrained in me that I had to do that. So when I started seeing other people doing different things and realizing that I was unhappy in the situation I was in, I was like, I need to find something else. I need to change, or else I'm not going to be a good role model for my children. It's not good to have a parent who is unhappy.
I think it's really crucial that you have the right people around you at that time. And I'm going to ask a little bit whether you feel that you did. But what I love is that you saw other women doing something different to what you were doing, which inspired you, because I think there is still, even to this day, a lot more expectation on women and mothers. And I hear from my friends, I've got a lot of friends that are parents, a lot of mothers that are career women, and some that want to be at home, and some that are mixing the two really well. And the feeling of guilt is in all of them. Some women feel guilty about staying at home and losing part of themselves. It's almost like, am I consuming my children too much? Am I being too much of a mother? And then others have a guilt about going to work and leaving them. It's like lose-lose for you mums, isn't it?
It's so difficult. I can't, and it's funny because I think it's still a struggle. I think it's so much better now because a lot of both parents know that this is something they need to talk about, they need to work through. And it wasn't like that as much, when I was going through it. But I think this is really, really important to know about yourself and that you don't have to be there 100% to take care of your children. Your children can still be okay. And what I ended up going to graduate school, I got someone to be with my kids to help because I couldn't have gone to graduate school and, taking care of my kids full time. So, and it was great. It was like, the kids were excited to see her and I was excited to get away. And their dad was like, she's not as resentful, so like it was a win-win-win for everybody.
Amazing. And the kids miss you and then they want mum back and they're more excited to see mum as well. Amazing, a win-win-win in all scenarios. Amazing. And it's just worth saying that obviously there's no one scenario that fits anyone really. You have to do what's right for you and what you feel that's right. But I think the important thing that you said is that no child is going to be happy with an unhappy parent. So how did you come out of that? Who did you have around you as a support system to go back to grad school? Who egged you on and had your back?
I'm trying to think of all the people, but like so many people who were, some of them stayed at home and they decided not to go back to work. Some of them were already working and, they were people I could talk to about it and see how they handled it. And I just powered through it. Something clicked in me where I said, if I stay in this situation, it's not going to be good for anybody. Like I got to a point where I had to do something. And so I made it my focus, what am I going to do? What kind of thing do I want to do with my life? What kind of school do I want to go to? Or what kind of job do I want to go to? I just really got focused on it, super focused. And I went to, I got my master's in social work. I did it over 4 years instead of 2 because it's a 2-year program, but I still wanted to be around for my kids. And I was lucky because that was really the right thing. I guess I could have done something wrong and then, figured it out, but it was really what I wanted to do. And I was like the person in the front of the class, all during my college, you don't really take it as seriously as you could. And when I was going to graduate school, I was so into it. I was so excited to write. I had to write all these huge papers, which I'm a dyslexic. I couldn't ever write. And I ended up getting almost all top grades because I knew that this was something I really wanted and I was really passionate about. And I just put my all into it. It was an amazing experience.
You must have felt so lucky to be there, having not been there and wanting that for so long. And then something just clicked and switched and it was a new lease of life for you, right?
Yeah, it really was. It was like nobody could stop me.
Amazing. Amazing.
I was going to do this and no matter what it took, I was going to do it. And I did it in a way that worked for my family and, worked for me.
So tell me a little bit about your relationship at that time when you went back to grad school with the father of your children.
So it was better because, like I said, we went to counseling, but there were things that he said that were kind of minimized what I was doing. Like he said, you're going to graduate school and then eventually working was something that you wanted to do. You're not doing that to earn money for the family. Like his career was earning money for the family and my career was for me because I wanted to do it. And so there was not an understanding that we're equals and that both of our careers are important. And, even if I earn less than him, that's just as important. And he was supportive of me doing this, which is great. But there was something about it that wasn't just as important as his job. Do you know what I mean?
I understand, yeah. And the reason why I asked that is because I think just from my own experiences in relationships, we become habitual. We're creatures of habit. So we form habits. We form habits around a relationship. And those habits allow us to identify in that relationship in a certain way. But this was a big change for you, a sense of freedom, a new lease of life, like I said. And I just wondered how that might have changed the dynamic in your relationship as well. So I understand completely that it did. But you didn't feel guilty. You didn't feel guilt. You did at first, you said, but you started to not feel guilty about leaving the children at home because it was working. Is that right to say?
I mean, I think I still felt guilty,
Okay, fine.
but I knew it was the right thing.
Yeah.
I knew it was the right thing. I missed my kids, but I saw them as much as possible. And then right after graduate school, I started working as a therapist, and you have to get a certain number of supervision hours. And so
Yes.
there was a whole thing that I had to do, but my kids were okay, like all the things that I needed to do, I could do, and they were good.
Yeah. I mean, you're a therapist, so you know this probably more than anyone, but your thoughts create your feelings, right? So all of your thoughts around the guilt maybe created this guilty feeling that you were leaving. But you said something really important was that I knew it was better. I knew the situation was better for everyone, even though I felt this. So you can kind of control that feeling through your thoughts and know that you're on the right path there, even though naturally you are going to feel guilty, especially considering how many years you were at home. How many years were you at home in total as a stay-at-home mum?
Um, Let me think. So 2003 is when I went back to graduate school. I'm just trying to think. 94 is so it was 9 years.
9 years. Yeah, it's a huge amount of time, a huge amount of time. So you're back at grad school. You said that took 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once you had graduated, how quickly did you find a job? And was it in social work? Was it in that area straight away?
Yeah. Oh, I found a job right away. I had to pass my exams. It's a lot to be a therapist, actually. So but I couldn't find a part-time job. I had to work full-time for a year.
Okay.
And even going to graduate school part-time was not like a full-time job. So I worked 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Mondays, so I could have Fridays off,
Ooh,
and then regular days Tuesday through Thursday. And that was horrible. That I didn't see my kids enough, and it was bad. I think they were fine, but like I didn't want to do that.
no.
I wanted to be around more than that. And so I only did that for a year. Then I got a job that was more flexible,
Okay.
that I didn't have to work, that many hours, and I could still do it.
I guess you saw that as a means to an end and you knew that had a time limit. So you just rolled with it because it needed to be done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I had to do it because you're only allowed a certain number of years to get your supervision hours. So I had to get it done by a certain time.
What are these supervision hours? For anyone that doesn't know, tell me about these supervision hours.
Oh, so you have to, as a therapist, you have to be supervised before you get your full license. And so, every week you need to talk to your supervisor and get feedback and make sure that you're doing the right thing. And I think it was like 2,500 hours or something like it. It was a lot of hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're just ticking them off, going, when is this going to end? And
Yeah.
during that time, do you also have to have therapy yourself?
No, there's no requirement to have therapy if you're a therapist, just so you know. But
Oh,
I've had plenty of therapy, and I think most therapists do.
interesting. I didn't know that. See, we're all learning. I
I
love that.
know it is interesting, right? But I did. I had plenty of therapy.
But you did have therapy. And
Yeah.
it's important for us to note that this huge transition from being a stay-at-home mum back into the career world, really, back into a new lease of life. You had good people around you. You said there were lots. You also mentioned that you had therapy. So how did the therapy help in that transition?
Oh, the therapy helped me tremendously because when I went originally to marriage counseling before I went back to get my master's, my kid's father decided after a certain amount of time that he did not want to continue with the therapist. So I ended up seeing her individually on my own. And she really helped me realize that I wasn't using my voice. I wasn't standing up for myself for things that were important to me. I didn't know how, I really just didn't know how. I saw this traditional family of my family of origin, my parents, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. I always said, I don't know if people know this anymore, but All in the Family, that Archie Bunker and Edith Bunker, they were kind of like my parents, like where he sits at the table and she runs around and gets him food, and like it's just this really, really old-fashioned way that they were. And I had that in my head that that's like what I had to do, not thinking that that may have been the way things used to be, but in this day and age, most people are not like that. I mean, there are still people that are like that. And being a stay-at-home mom, you don't have to have that traditional feeling, because if you're spouse is super helpful and like doesn't think that they have to just sit at the table and have people wait on them, like that's not necessarily what a stay-at-home mom does. You know what I mean? Like you can have a very untraditional family that has one parent staying at home.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
It's about partnership. It's about support. It's about communication. It sounds like there was a bit of a lack of that.
Yeah, no, it's a totally different thing. And I don't want to throw him under the bus. He did, contribute. It wasn't like he was Archie Bunker or my dad. He was not like that. But not to the point where it's kind of an equal partnership. And I think if one parent is staying at home, you really have to have an equal partnership in, both of you appreciating each other in a very, and I have to take responsibility for some of that. I probably wasn't as appreciative because I was so unhappy. You know what I mean? So there were a lot of reasons why we had a difficult relationship. But I think the biggest thing is really respecting each other and being grateful for each other, which we did not have,
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. And sometimes that comes from a lack of understanding as well. You need to really understand each other's worlds. And it feels like you were maybe living two very separate worlds where there was a lack of understanding. So yeah, I just think it's very brave. I think it's very brave, and you have to be really emotionally aware to understand that you can break these expectations without disrespecting the people that you love, that these things are societal expectations, environmental expectations.
Right, exactly. And you're not disrespecting anyone. Actually, your learning and growing is what they would want you to do. Like I think people really didn't have choices at one time, and now there's so many choices. So it's about knowing that each partner needs to support each other and being happy. And if one partner is not happy, it's not good for the whole family.
The whole family. There's an imbalance there, isn't there? So tell me about the work that you're doing now. What kind of therapy and counseling are you offering, the kinds of people that you're helping and the things that you specialize in?
Well, what happened after I graduated from graduate school, my marriage was not good at that time. And we did go to many, many counseling hours. And the last marriage counselor we saw for 4 years. So we really tried. And in 2012, we got divorced, and it was the worst experience of my life.
Hello, it's only me. I hope you're enjoying listening to Jill's story as much as I enjoyed interviewing her. As you know, this episode is called I Used to Be a Stay-at-Home Mum. However, part of Jill's story and transition back into the career world also included quite a messy divorce. She's going to speak about that in just a second. And if you or anyone that you know need any help or support in any of the issues that's raised in this episode, please utilise the show notes where you'll find some links to help and support. And a quick reminder to like and subscribe. If you like this episode, please hit the subscribe button. Please give us a star rating as well. And you can also join the conversation at any of our social medias. That's at U2BDC. Let's dive back into the episode.
The worst experience of my life. It really was. It was we didn't know what we were doing. I hired a lawyer. He hired a lawyer. The lawyers kind of controlled things. It was bad.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but when you say the lawyers controlled things, is that the way that lawyers deal with divorce, or is it a kind of a choice of how involved they are?
Well, it's what people don't know what to do. They'll hire a divorce attorney and think that they have to listen to the divorce attorney throughout the process. But really, you shouldn't do that, because the legal part of divorce is only a small part of the divorce. There's also so many other things: financial, parenting, knowing what's best for your situation. And lawyers are very expensive. So they charged, I can't tell you how much we spent on our divorce. It was a ridiculous amount of money. And at one point I said, I know my husband at the time, and I know myself, and I know how we're going to get to an agreement. And I figured it out myself. And I told my attorney, and she said, oh, I would not tell you to agree to that. And she made me sign something to say, she did not advise me to make the agreement that I ended up making in my divorce. And look, she's not terrible. She just, this is the way she functions. But a lot of attorneys don't understand that the mental health of their clients is really important. And you should not try to get everything you're entitled to if your mental health is going to be damaged.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you said this was the worst experience of your life. That is huge. So you must have been feeling really low at that point. How was the communication between you and your husband at that time? Did you communicate away from the lawyers?
Not really. The lawyers pretty much tell you you shouldn't do
Didn't
that
do
that
that.
much. So we didn't much.
So it's really interesting that because your world becomes very small and you're entrusting your attorney and everything that they're saying and everything that you're saying is going through them and everything that your husband at the time is saying is coming through them as well, through another person. If there's no direct communication, that can get lost in translation and everyone's got their own agenda.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so much can get lost. And, we ended up, like I said, figuring it out because I knew I pretty much finally understood the situation and knew what he wanted. So we got through it without going to court, which thank God, because a lot of people, we would have ended up in court if I followed my attorney's advice. And the courts are not a good place to go through your divorce. They just are not.
Mm.
And because you don't get to choose what happens, a judge does,
So that is essentially what it means to go to court, is that you're handing over the power to a judge to make the choices and the decisions for you.
Oh, yeah. If you litigate your divorce, that you don't have any choice. Yeah. The judge makes the decision. So needless to say, I learned an incredible amount from that experience. And I opened my own practice and I was doing marriage counseling and regular counseling. But then I started working with people going through divorce and I realized, oh my God, this is what I want to do. I want to help other people not go through what I went through, because not only did it hurt me and my ex-husband, but it hurt our children. I mean, what we did, not knowing, it hurt our children, and they're all doing really well, knock on wood today. So
good. Touching wood, good.
They've figured it out. They've been through therapy. And my ex and I do get along really well now. But you don't have to go through that. Now, I wrote a book. I have an online course. I have a program where I work with people who are going through divorce to help them understand how to go through this really crazy experience.
How to navigate it when you don't know what to expect. Especially if you've never been there before, you just don't know the waters. You don't know what you're navigating at all. And I think it's just so incredible that you put yourself out there to say, I want to help people navigate this because now I know what to expect and now I know how to help people. And you had that before. You did that part-time as a stay-at-home mum. You have something in you where you want to use your experience to help and benefit other people. And I just love that. I find that very inspiring. So just hats off to you for that.
Thank you. But it's like a passion in me. And it's like I work and yes, I get paid, but I do this because I love it. And I'm passionate about it. And very unlike what I did in finance, where I did it and I was like, oh my God, when's the end of the day? I like my current husband. So I'm remarried. And my husband sometimes says I'm a little obsessed with my work because I really do love it. And because I know, I see people, I see the change in people and I see the help that I'm doing. And it's like, you're helping kids, you're helping families. And it's unnecessary for people to go through what I went through. It's really, really unnecessary.
Amazing. I love it. And you're really helping people and really seeing the reward of it. And isn't the payoff? I mean, this is the perfect position for you to be in life, is that you do something that you're that passionate about, that you love that much, that also supports and pays you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
You want to be paid for something that you're that passionate about and you found it.
Yeah. No, I'm very lucky.
How wonderful.
I'm very lucky.
How wonderful. How long did it take for your divorce to go through and happen? How long were you in that process of hell?
9 months, like a baby.
9 months. Yeah, like another baby. It was your fourth child getting out of that, getting divorced. And at that time, during those 9 months, how old were your children?
So, and that's partly the reason I did it at that time. My oldest was 18. I wanted to wait till he got out of the house for a number of reasons I don't have to go into, but 18, 16, and 12, almost 13. So 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it's good just for me to understand and paint a picture of that period because it's tough. You're the parenting doesn't stop, but the parenting becomes something completely different when you're going through that, and so that's really difficult. And they've all got their own individual needs as well, and maybe a lack of understanding themselves. You had a lack of understanding, so did they.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's very interesting is after the divorce, we had 50-50 custody. And he, who had not done a lot of the parenting when, before the divorce, he stepped up and he did he got the kids 50% of the time. I mean, they were older, so they didn't need as much as when they were younger, but which was good for the kids, to have their dad really involved and 50% of the time. So
Yeah, that was 50-50 custody, and there's no option for him not to step up because you're not there for 50% of the time. So he has to step up and be a dad. So, really and truly, it probably was the best thing that could have happened for your whole family.
it really was. My mom said to me when I told her I was getting divorced, she said, I wish I had the courage to do that in her.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The worst time, the worst experience of your life, but the best thing you could have done for your family. There's two opposing things there, isn't there? Nothing worth achieving is easy, but this just happened to be so difficult. And you need to be so brave to do that. You really need to have the end in sight. You had that in your sight. You had that light at the end of the tunnel in your sight, sounds like. So, how do you help people going through divorce? How are you there and present for them during their divorce? How does that work? How does it look?
So the most of the people I work with going through divorce, I'm a coach because you can do so much more as a coach than as a therapist. It's a very different way of working with people. As a coach, I am helping them with all of the strategic, practical things that they're experiencing. Like, what questions are you going to ask your attorney? How are you communicating with your soon-to-be ex? Are you going to go through mediation? Do you need a financial professional? Like, how do you protect your children? Like all these things, there's like practical things that they need to do. How do you keep the conflict low? Because that's really important. You want to keep the conflict low. And the emotional piece I help with too, because I do have a therapy background. So, and I do it in a format where it's a group. So you're not as isolated when you're going through that. You're listening to other people's stories, you're helping each other. And that's the biggest.
Oh, amazing. There's already this intense feeling of being isolated during that time, and doing that group therapy automatically makes those people feel less isolated. So this is fantastic.
Yeah, I feel like the group is one of the biggest things that you can have when you're going through this. So you don't feel like you're the only person going through it.
Absolutely. This is wonderful. So, practicalities, how are you going to deal with this? You ask the difficult questions that they might not have thought about, and you help them to plan for those eventualities, or to plan for all possibilities, I guess.
Yeah, no, I give them a step-by-step guidance through their divorce, through my online course and through having group and individual coaching sessions with them.
That's incredible. How do they find you, Jill?
So typically, I do get referrals from people, but I also provide some free resources. Like I have guides and I have a free Facebook group with over 6,000 people in it. And so people come into my Facebook group, they hear me talk about all of this live, and I offer workshops with other divorce professionals that have them understand like, oh, there's other things than a divorce attorney. You can have a mediator and you can have a financial professional. And so I give out some free information, and then they want to work with me because they know that
Wonderful.
you don't need to do this on your own.
Yeah. So you offer those free resources generally through your Facebook page. What's your Facebook page called?
So the group is called it's called Separation and Divorce Support Community. And then I have I have like 8 guidelines for separated and divorcing parents. And I have lots of stuff that I put out there, workshops every couple weeks with people on all different kinds of topics.
And these leaflets, pamphlets, workbooks, live webinars, they're all through this Facebook group, or are they available as well on a website? Or
yeah, no, everything's available on my website, divorcecoachjill.com. And
divorcecoachjill.com.
yes.
Excellent. And I'm guessing in this day and age of, I mean, look, you're in the East Coast of America right now, and I'm in the UK. So I'm guessing with this technological advancement, it means that you can help people across the states, or is it localized?
Oh no, I can help anybody, but the time difference is a little bit of an issue, but my online course anybody can use, and I have all my workshops and all my information in there, and it really helps you step by step go through the process. I am actually working right now. I'm really excited on a directory of divorce professionals where people will be able to come in and search for divorce professionals in their areas. Oh, and the other thing I do, I'm involved in so many things. I'm a host of a live show for an organization called the Divorce Coalition, and they educate divorce professionals on how to work with clients who are survivors of domestic violence. So I am trying to educate divorce professionals on the difference between, working with someone who's just a regular divorce versus someone who's experienced domestic violence. And it's really important to get that information out there. And there's a ton of information on the Divorce Coalition website, divorcecoalition.com.
The Divorce Coalition. Fantastic, fantastic. And I guess maybe that led you to the directory, right? Because you are really interested in pairing up the right person with the right person and giving the people the right help that they need.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that that's going to be really helpful for people because you don't want to just go hire like a divorce attorney who you don't know. Are they in it in the right way where they're going to be concerned about me, or are they just in it for making the money? Because there are some of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So this is really good because now you've become this person pulling the right people to the right direction for their benefit, which is just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. What else are you doing? You're doing lots of things. What else do you want to talk?
Well, I still have my counseling practice. So I do marriage counseling, and I do co-parenting counseling. I do reunification counseling, but most of my time is spent with the coaching.
With the divorce coaching. Nice. So you've got a nice balance. You're a trained therapist and you are still providing that support and therapy for people, but the divorce coaching is really taking up a lot of your time, and it's so needed, clearly. I just want to frame it a little bit. Obviously, there are different laws in different areas of the world. So is it just North America, or do you coach people from outside of North America?
So no matter where you are, you need to understand the strategy that you don't hire an attorney and communicate through an attorney. Mediation, I'm also a trained divorce mediator. Mediation is a great way, no matter where you are. I think there's a form of mediation in hopefully most areas that people are listening. So the idea of how to mediate, how to develop a proposal, developing what's important to you, like really figuring out what's important to you in your divorce, that can be done. I can work with anybody on that. So, but yes, in terms of the laws in the countries or the states or wherever you are, you have to have, a local attorney to help you with that.
It's wonderful. It's a really important point as well, isn't it? It doesn't matter where you are in the world, and the laws might be slightly different. What matters here is that you have access to somebody else that can provide you the right support, mediation, emotional support, practical support. It's not all based on the attorney, and the attorney is going to be looking only at the law.
Right.
And they're going to be biased in certain ways, and they're going to think in certain ways. And actually, someone like yourself can offer so much more support that you need at that time.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Amazing. Jill, I've loved speaking to you today. I think your story is a really interesting one, and one that I think that a lot of mums out there will relate to, being a stay-at-home mum versus being a career professional. You found the sweet spot now. When you're talking about being a stay-at-home mum and looking back in hindsight, how do you think that 9-10 year period of your life really informed who you are now and how you see yourself in the world now?
I mean, I think that it was significant in who I am now. I've never been depressed in my life, like never. And I wouldn't have understood that feeling of, real deep sadness and not having a joy of life. And how important that is. You can give up and you can make sacrifices for your family and for people, but you can't give up yourself. You can't. And if you're doing that, there is support out there. There is ways that you can get the help that you need so that you can get out of that. And so that transformation would never have happened if I never got to that deep feeling of being so unhappy. And we can all get there, right? We don't know how we got there, but we think that we have to do things, and we are taught certain things that, like, if you're a good mom, you give up, you make sacrifices, and so you hear that and you tell yourself that that's the way you should do it. But there's always somebody out there who can help you get through this. I'm a big proponent in individual therapy. Friendships are there, people who can help you and you can reach out to and talk to. And thank God I found my way out of it.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. It's such an important thing, because if anyone is going through a time where they've really lost the joy from their life, it becomes very lonely, it becomes very isolating. They could be feeling lots of depressed feelings. And it takes a lot of bravery to talk about it and to find people to speak to. And it's a really important message for you to say, you do not need to deal with this alone. There are people out there that can help you. I think that's the first step. If there's no joy in your life anymore and you're feeling that alone, that isolated, that low, go and find the right people to help you. There's no shame in that. And it's the first step, really.
And I just want to make it very clear that not everybody who stays at home went through what I went through. Some people are super happy and love staying at home and get so much joy out of it. And like I said, I wasn't that sad the whole time.
One person's journey is not the same for another person. Everyone has to do what's right for them. The important thing is that by being a stay-at-home mum for so long, you lost so much of your identity, which meant that you lost so much of your joy, but you had the bravery, you had the power to really take back your life. And that gave your kids a better life, and that made your family better. Jill, thank you so much. Thank you for telling your story so honestly and being so honest. I'm going to put all of your websites, your directories, and any links to anything that you've got in the show notes. So if anyone's listening and wants to delve more into that, please click and see what Jill's doing. And if you're in a position where you need the help, just remember what Jill's message was there are people that can help. Wow, that was an amazing story, really. And it was really, really lovely to talk to Jill. I genuinely approached the interview thinking that this was going to be about a career change, being about losing some part of yourself and your identity, and then stepping back into your power by finding your career after being a stay-at-home mum. And a lot of it was, and you can hear all of that. However, what I didn't expect was how honest Jill was about her divorce. And actually, that almost becomes a lot more important in Jill's story because of all of the incredible work she's doing now. This divorce coaching, mediating, putting together the directory, the Facebook groups, the forums, the help and support, the webinars, plus the therapy on the side as well. It's all surrounded by and wrapped up in her own experiences. And I think that was really inspiring to me, that she just takes all of her experiences and she uses them for good. Thank you, Jill. Thank you for talking to me. Thank you for being so honest and open about your experience. And if anyone needs any extra help and support, or to find out more about what Jill's doing, all of the information, as I said before, are in the show notes. So please do utilize the show notes. Have you liked or subscribed to my podcast? Have you given us a star rating? If not, please go ahead and do that now. It really does help us. I know I'm always banging on about it, but it's the world that we live in today. It's important for you to give us a star rating. I would also love to hear from you guys, whether that's by email, whether that's a comment on Facebook, on Instagram, or whether it's leaving a comment on the platform that you listen to. If you have some kind of experience and you want to reach out, please do not hesitate to reach out. I would love to hear from you. If one of the episodes you've specifically connected with, I want to know what that is. When this gets released, as I said, it is January 2025, right at the beginning of a new year. I'm such a huge stickler for setting goals. Please write down your goals, set your intentions for the years. I'm with you all the way. Take care. I'm looking forward to seeing you very soon on another episode. Stay safe.